Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover the February 8th, Thursday, DFS NHL slate. How you doing, DJ?
Doing pretty good. Got out of class early tonight, so we're on at definitely earlier than normal time, almost 8 p.m. Eastern time. Definitely, 3-game slate that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, but normally these 3-game slates we don't get that into. But I guess to start the show, I did want to mention our January winners, being as we had a 3-way tie. They will be. So one of the 3 winners, I mean, I know this isn't gonna be a surprise. It was me. I know, guys. Calm down. Matt, I didn't hear you.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So being as the winner gets to come on the podcast, obviously I'm taking myself out of the race. I know it's really for the mercy reason of taking myself out, but no, I'm just kidding. Honestly, like these two have definitely over the course of last month probably won way more money than me. Because I know Corey Ritter, one of our winners, had like a 60 something, I'm pretty sure, night. And I'm pretty sure he either won a GBP or came in the top 5. So congratulations to him and Jimmy Burke, who also got tied for the win of the month. I know he had, I don't know, some pretty decent scores in there.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Also, these are 2. Yeah, he definitely had a couple. I try to remember if there's any actual examples of like, I know like December he had like the 10K night, or maybe it was November. So both of these guys are really great DFS players. Definitely guys that are great to have in the group. They've been there for well over a year. They're pretty much day oneers. So huge shout out to them. Congratulations. And they will be facing off on Thursday for this slate. So I'm sure they're listening to this podcast, and we'll give them, the best possible lineup to get on the best possible podcast.
Still waiting for someone to take down my 72.2 I posted in the month of January. So the high score still belongs to me. Also, on Tuesday night, my idiotic self did not join the Listener League. Of course, after 2 days last week of finishing 14th out of 15 and 13th out of 14, I would have won this one. And of course, I didn't enter. So that was pretty tilting. I did see your lineup. Anything from Tuesday you wanted to talk about? Or
the only thing I would say is that I have one friend who's like a really big DFS shark when it comes to football and stuff, and he was in the platinum game. I don't know if any of our listeners were in that platinum free. Were you?
I was in that. Yeah.
Oh, you were.
I think I tied with him actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't remember what his DraftKings name is. He's more of a FanDuel guy, I think, but he also like in the NFL, like he just goes off. So
yeah,
he asked me. Yeah, he basically asked me like who should I play and stuff. And I mean, I didn't, obviously you don't want to just give the guy everything, but I kind of gave him the teams we were interested in, and all of I sent him to our sim and all that stuff. And he ended up netting a couple $100. And I mean, I really was like, yeah, Gensel, Crosby, like all of the plays I was like, really, you should have, he smashed with. And then he also was like, I think I'm gonna have to throw Koivu in, and of course he went off, which was random, but I guess he's probably not listening, but still, it was just like, my lineup miscashing by a Robin Lehner failure, and his lineup won $200. So it was just kind of sad because I'm like, man, should have put more time into my own.
Yeah, I finished 68th in that thing. So he's right around me somewhere. I don't know his name either, but
I could find it.
I know. I'm sure we could.
Out there. But yeah, it's just so tilting because like I really thought that last night I felt so confident in my lineup. It was doing really well early on, and I mean the Sabres had to break my heart, lose that game. If Robin Lehner gets that win, I mean that's 4 more points. I think that would have put me in the money in all my contests. Instead, I had like a 32 because 32, 36. Yeah, I had 32 points, just missing everything. And when you play GPPs like I do, I really should have played more double ups. It's a heartbreaker. But yeah, his name is what?
I think it's Rage Paladin.
Yeah, yep, that is it.
Yep, because he had Koivu, but yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. But I found it was funny because I literally tied with him, and you said that he made 200 in the platinum. I'm like, wait, so did I?
Yeah, and I told him Goss was there. I told him to play Jones. Yeah. He ended up with the Panarin and Atkinson, which I mean that burned a lot of people. Honestly, I watched most of that Columbus game. They looked fantastic. They had so many chances. Atkinson probably should have scored twice. Panarin himself had a couple. I mean, not as good as Atkinson, but
Yeah,
That's
I
really
was really
heartbreaking.
I was really close to playing those guys. So yeah, I mean, I had a pretty fun night. I played Satarian Net, which was like just totally kind of what I talked about on Tuesday. Like goalie, it doesn't matter what name you click; it matters the spot that you're clicking on, basically. And Sateri came through for me. So
Mhm.
whenever you get goalie right and have a decent team, it's always a fun night. But all right,
Yeah.
let's.
Can we stay on this goalie conversation
Oh
for like
yeah, yeah,
one more
sure.
second? I think it's kind of interesting because we never talk about goalies. But if you're wondering how I pick goalie normally, I mean, basically why I picked Laner is if you have a team like Anaheim who's been pushing the pace pretty well, they're on a back to back. You know, it's like they're on a back to back in Buffalo on playing 5 games in 8 days, but like their pace numbers were still pretty good over the past 10. So I'm like, if you have a goalie that cheap, like I feel like you have to take that opportunity if it fits your lineup. Now, Lanier was not my first choice by any means. Like I don't want anyone to think like I play the Buffalo goalies ever. That is my last thing. And tomorrow we have another situation where we have Craig Anderson at home against Nashville on a back to back. I think this is 3 games in 4 or 5 days. It's like, could you consider him, or do you think that that kind of strategy might have be what burned me, and I shouldn't try to go back to it?
Um, you know, I it's really a situation dependent. Like there's not like a like I tend to trust my expected goals, recency, like those sort of trends. I kind of combine that with Vegas to get a sense on like not necessarily what the raw line is, but like how the line is moving. Even underdogs that are like go for minus or even favorites to go from like minus 200 to like minus 180 when the underdog's getting like 10% of the bets. Like that's always concerning to me, just because that makes me think like it just doesn't really sit well with me. I mean, we saw Connor Hellebuck last night, like pretty much did what we expected, like got the win pretty easy. Gave up 3 goals, only had 21 saves. So he scored what 4.2. What did Robin Lehner have as a
How many
final?
say?
No,
But
like what was the
oh,
score?
so he ended up with 1.8 points.
Okay.
He had 33 attempts,
Yeah,
29
yeah,
saves, and the loss. And honestly, like one of the goals, like I don't remember who, but like the Sabres scored on their own net, so
yeah. Yeah.
that wasn't his fault. I mean, the OT goal is the only one that I was really mad about. The Kasha goal, like it was just like no one covered up Kasha, and he just kind of batted the puck and went
Mhm.
5 hole. Like
So yeah, I mean,
it really
even
was. I'm not mad about my process there, but then again, it's like I
yeah,
don't know.
no, for sure. I think he was like a fine play. I mean, it was pretty much a pick 'em in Vegas. He was super duper cheap, and I'm very price sensitive when it comes to goalie because the difference between the top end goalies and the lower end goalies simply isn't really worth the difference between like a Brent Burns and a like Giordano type or something like that. Like that's kind of what the salaries are on DraftKings, and it's not important enough to me
Yeah.
to you know
Laner, a
throw
guy
out a
with
good lineup.
a 913 save percentage too. It's like he's not a terrible goalie. The Sabres are just
No,
bad. So please lay
yeah.
off. All right. But let's
All
get
right.
into this late. You're absolutely right. We're gonna go game by game. We'll probably fly through most of this
Yeah,
because
last goalie take I have, someone in that platinum free roll played Oscar Dansk and beat me. So yes,
hmm,
Oscar Dansk, like the fourth string goalie in Vegas. So that was really funny. I was
I
just
wonder if
noticing
they just
that.
had no idea what they were doing and
No,
just
yeah,
like
they had no idea. They were clicking names and ended up lucking out, I guess.
I can't even
But
imagine.
I found that really funny.
Like
Like
hockey is random enough for that, but if you have a process and you stick to it, you'll win money more often than not. So why don't we get into the slate?
for sure.
We'll do more of that kind of conversation as we get questions. Feel free to contact us on Twitter or the group me. But that's just something we never talk about goalies, but people always wonder in the group like, who are we taking? Like, what is the goalie strategy? And as Matt mentioned, it's every single night. I think it's kind of almost a new.
It's
It's always a new thing. Like it's not like I'm ever gonna go with one thing all the time. Like every night's different. So
Yep. All right. So moving on to the 9 game slate ahead of us, we're going to tackle this game by game, starting with the Islanders at Buffalo, then Calgary at New Jersey, Montreal at Philly, Nashville at Ottawa, Vancouver at Tampa, Colorado at St. Louis, Arizona at Minnesota, Dallas at Chicago, and Vegas at San Jose. Let's start with the Islanders at Buffalo. Coincidentally, as of right now, that is the only game with a 6 over under posted. We know games with the Islanders tend to be higher scoring. So I think this is a good game to get us started with. Any initial thoughts here on the Islanders or the Buffalo side?
I mean, the Islanders are like extremely banged up on defense. Boychuk is not expected, but I wouldn't rule him out. The Han is out. Mayfield, who they just re-signed, is on IR. I don't know. It says 4 weeks approximately, so he'll be out for a month. That really has moved Ryan Pulock or Pollock. I know I just want to say Pulock into like a way more prominent role. He got 22 minutes last game, but he's been pretty much getting 18 on average. Obviously, with Mayfield going down, that could have bumped up a bit. But he is on the second power play, Leddy on the first. I honestly, in this game, like, I'm definitely not afraid to just consider somewhat of a game stack, but I do wonder if, like, this Islanders kind of bubble is going to burst. And if any team was going to kind of just put up a dud, it'd be the Sabres, who are really good at scoring. Lately, they just haven't been able to score 5-on-5. So I'm wary of the game. I'm definitely not considering it as like a game stack, but Matt, I'll just send it to you from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Never mind. Go. Sorry.
I don't have a ton of interest in the Islanders side. Like, again, they're like, Tavares is really good. Barzal's like an incredible player, but like, I'm not a big fan of how priced up they are at this point, especially like, the guys around Tavares, like Bailey's still above 6,000. Like even Pollock, who you mentioned, is 4.5. Like, I think that's reasonable given the floor numbers he's shown and like the role that he's having now. But it's certainly not something that I'm like, rushing to get a piece of, just because it seems like every main contributor is kind of way up there in price now. The one guy who we thought may be viable is Sebastian Aho, the defenseman for the Islanders, but he only played 14 minutes last game in a game where the Islanders were rolling 5 defensemen. So that's very concerning. Like, he started out with Nick Leddy and didn't get the ice time. So I would be very hesitant to go back there again. And the depth lines in New York just aren't anything that I would consider playing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the one note was that I think we mentioned this before though, that Tavares was with Bailey and Bolivier.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Yes.
Bolivier.
We've mentioned this before, right?
Yeah, we've definitely mentioned it.
Barzal Everly. So just kind of like there was a line switch there. If you missed our last podcast, I think we mentioned it, like I was saying, but we'll mention it again. But does that give you, a little bit more reason to play Bolivier at 5.1, if that holds true? Or
I would say no, just because he's not on that first power play. He's been really good. Like, he's found his role, kind of like crashing in front of the net, and guys like Barzal have been finding him, and now he's playing with Tavares. But he's never going to be a featured guy. And I think at like 5,100, for instance, there's guys right in that range that I like a little bit more. Palmieri's one who jumps to the top of my mind. Wayne Simmons, even Thomas Hertl, like those sort of guys, I think just have better floors and better roles for their teams than Beauvillier does.
Yeah, I agree. On the Sabre side, was there anyone on the other side? I guess I know you didn't mention. Like, is there anyone you're really considering tomorrow before we move over to the Sabre side?
Not necessarily. I think Tavares, just because there's not, there's Sagan, there's Eichel, but there's neither of the Pittsburgh guys who've been smoking hot. There's really not a ton. There's no McDavid, obviously, no Matthews. So I think Tavares is always worth consideration, just because he's the absolute focal point of everything they do. But I'm not very interested in like stacking him with anyone. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it makes sense for my process right now.
Yeah, I was really going to agree with that. I think if you roll out multiple lineups, it might not be too crazy to just go with like Tavares and Eichel and like, get as like because I feel like you kind of want exposure to this game in some capacity. And it just sounds so typical to say like, oh, those two guys. I mean, on the Sabre side, I think that there is definitely merit to going with Ryan O'Reilly and potentially Okposo or Kane as well. Ryan O'Reilly is just so cheap right now that I think it definitely bumps him into consideration, considering his minutes. And I think there's a lot of upside there because like, he will block shots, maybe not the most consistent, but his shot numbers have been up as of late. to I think where he's definitely. I mean, I'm considering him tomorrow.
Yeah, I think 5,300 is about right where I would expect him to be. I know last slate he was 4,900, and the sim really liked that for like a floor perspective. So I can certainly see going right back to O'Reilly. He plays a ton of minutes, and in first guy over the boards for the penalty kill and the power play and the closeout games for the Sabres. So
Yeah. Well,
there's
the
always.
favorite. Oh, sorry. Go on.
So there's always some nice upside there, but the main guy who I am looking to,
Can I
really,
guess?
if
Can I
I'm
guess?
getting yeah, go for it.
Is it Erasmus Ristolainen?
It's actually not. I was
Oh,
actually going to go with Samson.
okay. All right.
Because he's playing with Eichel now on Eichel's wing, and he's maintained his first line power play role, and so now over his last 4 games, he's played 19 minutes in each of them. So we're not really seeing like the third line sort of minutes that we were getting out of Reinhart earlier this season. And while he's not like a super productive shot guy, he's only 4,000 with direct exposure to Jack Eichel, who literally may be the most talented player on the slate outside of maybe Hall and Kucherov. Obviously Tavares, Sagan, they're incredible. But Eichel is like so dominant that it's kind of silly that 4,000 gets you a direct exposure to him like Reinhart and someone who's, obviously comfortable setting him up and doing things like that. So
Yeah,
that's my
I
favorite
agree.
play here.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, I think the main McCabe was hurt last game in Buffalo. I haven't heard anything like confirming or denying his injury. I don't know. So Jake McCabe, I mean, not that he's DFS relevant, but Ristolainen, who did take a penalty in last game, also had 33 minutes of ice time. So I think if you do go with Eichel and Reinhart, or Eichel and O'Reilly, or I mean, there's different ways to go about this, I guess. Like Ristolainen is going to be on the ice in all offensive opportunities. He did shoot the puck a decent amount. It seemed like a lot of his shots were getting blocked, missing the net. So he didn't quite hit the value I was hoping. I think he was there with the shot metrics that I was hoping for, but 5,300, I think it's very fair. But we could probably move on from here. I think that was the only other thing I wanted to note.
Yep. All right. So we can move over to Calgary at New Jersey. Kind of surprisingly, like New Jersey has sustained like a really, really strong expected goals output on the offensive end. And so they're like the number one team, the like 10 game projections that I use. So I'm definitely going right back to that well. The Kyle Palmieri's, the Taylor Halls. I didn't actually see how Zacha and Miles Wood ended up doing, but playing on that first power play, like they all seem like pretty strong values.
Yeah, Zacha had 2 assists. He had, I think, 3 shots on goal. I mean, it's pretty easy to find. Maybe it was 4, and he played 18 minutes of ice time. I mean, I remember early on, it was 4 shots on goal. I remember early on, I saw that New Jersey scored, and I like read Zajac and thought it was Zacha, and I got really excited. And I was like, wait, hold on, what did I just read? And I'm like, no. Like, their names are so similar. But yeah, no, Zacha is definitely a pretty good value on this slate. New Jersey is still rolling their 11-7 with 11 forwards, which is something that I am always super interested in. I know Ottawa did it as well against them.
That's kind of fun.
Get me started. Honestly, if I wasn't so like biased by like the numbers I'm reading on like a 10 game, like I was so close to playing Hoffman, but I was like, do I go Hoffman and Duchesne? I'm like, no, you know what? Like I'm sticking with Panarin and Atkinson. Like I couldn't have got Duchesne in that spot anyways. Like, like I'm not doing this to myself. Like these are the guys that everything is leading me to. I'm not going to do it. But I wish I put Hoffman in over Panarin.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be like, well, I absolutely think Panarin was like the better numbers play than Hoffman.
Yeah.
But I think we can talk about Ottawa in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to get to
it. So getting back to New Jersey, the one thing I noticed is that Miles Wood kind of turned into the rotating winger. I'm not sure if they must have had a 4-on-3 power play, because even the power play units kind of showed Wood kind of sitting off on a power play, and Hall ended up scoring with only Zacha and Palmieri on the ice. Like not even Butcher was on the ice for a power play goal. So really not sure what happened there, in all honesty.
Something's got to be wrong. I mean, unless it was like right at the end and they had like Bratt was out there, because like
Yeah, that's like
Because
it.
like Heishier doesn't have it either. I have no idea.
Like, it must have been like.
It could have.
Anyways, it doesn't matter. So the point is that Miles Wood is kind of like that rotational guy, and if they roll 11 and 7 again, Zaka and Palmieri actually did play a lot of their shifts with Taylor Hall.
Yeah, it must
So
have been Boyle, by the way.
okay, and so you're not even. Not only are you playing, power play one stack in Zaka, Palmieri, Hall, but they're even on the ice together for a portion of the game. So that's maybe a bit more incentive to stack up those three guys in particular. Anyone else here that you're interested in?
Not on the New Jersey side. I mean, like
Okay,
Heishier is
yeah,
like
no,
you really want to stack up because you're just really, really into it. Like Heishier's price is back down to where it's comfortable, but not getting that power play correlation as of right now, and really only getting 16, 17 minutes. I don't know.
yep, no, I agree there. And then maybe on the Calgary side, I think I could get behind some Giordano or Dougie Hamilton action.
Mhm.
Um, I just Dougie Hamilton has always been one of my favorite DFS guys. I actually haven't played much of him this year, um, but I feel like this could be about the time to jump back in. He skated a little bit with the first power play last game, because Troy Brower is terrible, and they took him off of that unit. So I'm interested to see if they practice power plays and if you can get some confirmation on that. But otherwise, I think Giordano's a solid option, but not someone I'm like overly focused on.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that take. I did notice that Brody he was out there. Yeah, he was. I was watching that game. He was out there for the first power play instead of Brower for some time. So,
Hmm,
not that I'm like really, really into TJ Brody, but he gets pretty good minutes. His shot numbers are okay, like way better than last year, but not good. If that makes
okay.
sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
yeah.
was on that first unit and not Brower for some of the game. Also, Hamilton was on that first unit instead of Brower. It kind of looks like as well. So I think there's a chance that maybe they could roll two defensemen on the first power play unit next game. I just keep an eye on it, but it kind of makes me think like Hamilton and Brody could be a little bit more interesting, at least at this point. I mean, I love Giordano too, like 27 minutes. And they really get those guys the majority of the minutes and Hamonic, but Hamonic's definitely an DFS play. And then other than that, no, I think that's, I mean,
Yeah, I think on the
like,
forward side, I'm not that interested in
yeah,
Calgary.
no. They're
So
just too expensive. I mean, Monahan's finally
yep,
got like the price jump that I was
yep.
expecting with his numbers, and now I'm like, nah, I'm not paying that. Like Eichel's right there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, so let's go to Monahan. Or Jesus, Monahan.
Yeah, nothing better.
Montreal at Philadelphia.
I do
Um,
have their lines if you want me to read them off. I know I could probably
yeah, go
take
for it.
probably actually hold on because they're at the way at
Oh,
the
okay.
bottom. I got them. Never mind. They were Pacioretty, Byron, and Hudon, Galchenyuk, Duren, and this was the interesting one. Sherbak.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nikita Sherbak. Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
was called
Okay.
up. He was on that line, which was pretty interesting. Lekanen, who's been pretty red hot with Plekanec and Gallagher, which also like that's. I mean, like, I hear those three lines and I'm like, man, how is this team that bad? Anyways, and then Delorier, froze or freeze, whatever, and
Yep.
Shaw, and then yeah, defense the same. Petrie's been red hot. I think he was like the DraftKings player of the week. I think they tweeted, which I was like, man, like I haven't played him, but I know his prices keeps going up. But player of the week, man, that's kind of bold.
um, yeah. So that Nikita Sherbak is really interesting. Just a little bit of context in the AHL. He is he's played 21 games there in the AHL, 24, and he is like one of the better points per game players down there. Like Dennis Malgin is one of the names around him, Dylan Strome. So he's not necessarily like a big name guy, but he's certainly someone who's worth keeping an eye on. He's 3,600 on DraftKings, so that's a bit more expensive than I would have expected. Um, but he had a strong game last game, and it seems like he's being rewarded. So definitely a value guy to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think he's the best Nikita in the NHL, is what I read.
Um, yeah, who is it? Nikita Nesterov, was that
Yeah,
who?
no, he's gone now. He's
Yeah,
in
I know,
Russia,
but
but yeah,
he was
he
the best
was the
until
best Nikita. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
But all right, so let's just stick on the Montreal side here. Is there anyone that really piques your interest on this team? Or
Uh, Jeff Petrie does. I know you've read off
I just
the
yeah.
forwards, but Petrie is 5,200 now, but that's like incredibly deserved. Like he's just been crushing it lately. So that's definitely a name I'm keeping on my short list of mid-tier defensemen to
Yeah,
consider on the slate.
I know, I agree, but I feel like every time Petrie does this, he ends up just putting up a dud. Although that's terrible advice. Like he's been really good as of now. I just know, like last time we were like, I touted him so strongly, and he just stops shooting. But he does have 34 shot attempts in his past 4 games, which is unbelievable. It's third over the past like what 10 days,
Week and a half.
week and a half or so. Just under Getzlaff and like 9 less than Burns, but I mean, no one's gonna get that many. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, on the so going over to the Philly side, unless there's anyone else you were gonna
Nope.
mention on Montreal, like Philly is really going hard on their top six. Couturier played 25 minutes last game against Carolina in an overtime game. Voracek, Giroux, Simmons, and Konechny all cracked 20 minutes. That's like really good. It's definitely helped the Flyers. Like they are right back in the thick of things. Like I think they're sitting in a playoff spot right now, despite going on a 10-game losing streak this season.
That's a lot of losses in a row, and I've seen a lot of losses.
Yeah, so definitely the big names there are worth keeping an eye on. Montreal team that I've avoided pretty much every time for the last little bit because their defensive numbers are actually pretty solid. So I could see, I think the top value that I would be looking at is it's actually Jacob Voracek, I'm pretty sure, and it's Jakob Silfverberg, and I always get those two confused. But
I never make mistakes on names, so
I think Voracek and Simmons are my two favorite guys from this game. Simmons a bit more value upside dependent, and Voracek more like floor. Even though the shots haven't necessarily been there for him lately, I think he still profiles as one of the better floor guys for his price currently.
He's almost getting an assist per game, which is crazy.
It's insane.
If he gets 2 assists tomorrow, he'll be on an assist per game basis. That's nuts. That's not at all insane. What he like going into this year. If you're like, dude, he is gonna have like 5 times the assist on goals, I would have been like, dude, what kind of drugs are you on? Can I borrow them? But I totally agree with that take like entirely. I mean, I'm not like off Konechny at this price, but I'm not that strong on it considering he's not power play 1. Yeah, I'm kind of just right there with you. I feel like
and then Gostisbehere smashing.
He just loves blocking and taking shots. Like anything to do with shots, like he's in for it.
Yeah, he's playing a ton of minutes still. Everything holds true from last show where it kind of gushed about him, or maybe it was 2 shows ago. Right across. Actually, anything else to say from this game? Because a little bit of breaking news.
I know. I just got it too. I was teeing it up for next game.
Yeah, so let's go to Nashville at Ottawa then.
Oh, one of like who's not going to play for Ottawa?
I will go one Mr. Alex Need That I Had Burrows.
Ooh. Did you see any of Taylor Hall's quotes about it? I could probably find them quick. Oh my god! It was like it was so funny to me for some reason. I'll find it. You can. Oh wait, here it is. I found it right away. Taylor Hall on Burrows. He punched me in the back of the head like 10 times. He kind of lost his mind. Like that's all he said about it. Like it wasn't like, yeah, I can't believe that happened. Like he's just kind of like, yeah, like he's kind of out there like losing his mind. Yeah, Hall told me after he didn't know it was Burrows' knee in his head. He just felt something, and his teammate told him afterwards. So like, weird. But 10 games, yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, it was disgusting. Really, it's like just so moronic. But yeah, I mean that doesn't necessarily change much from a DFS perspective. Like Burrows wasn't playing power play. He wasn't playing like a. There is no real cushy role on the Ottawa side, so. It's news. I'm not sure how noteworthy it is. Even a guy like Thomas Chabot, who's been playing first power play time, only played 13 minutes last game as they rolled 11-7. Like maybe if they play him with Carlson or something and they go 6 defensemen, he might be worth a look. But for right now, I'm pretty much set on full fading these guys. Colin White's price has increased a little bit, and his minutes haven't been all too high either. So not really someone I'm interested, but 3.2 for Colin White, and he and Sherback are kind of the two guys right now. If I'm not finding room for Reinhardt that I'm like looking at, but we can kind of create that list as we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they did go 11-7, which I think I already mentioned. Yeah, but it was pretty. It was like not what I was really expecting as far as like how many minutes everyone would get. They still kind of rolled three lines pretty regularly, and then just gave like the McCormick and
Yeah.
D D'Amico like just a few minutes here or there. So really didn't help boost them as much as I thought it would, even though they went off.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ottawa's actually one of the more common teams who does that, which was kind of the reason I liked Hoffman at the beginning. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm honestly like I'm probably not going to drink the Ottawa Kool-Aid from
no,
last game at all, to be honest.
no, Nashville is like really good.
They're playing right now.
Yep, going over there. This is Thursday night is the last day of his suspension, so like he's out against Ottawa as well. Right now, Pontus Aberg is in that position on the first line alongside Johansson and Arvidsson. They kind of filled the power play roles 2 games ago now when you're listening to this, a little bit weirdly. So like check in on the group me uh, check in on the group me if you're interested in like kind of a better update on what the power play one looks like, because last game it was like a split between Ekholm and Yossi, and then Stuban, Johansson, Smith, and Arvidsson. So like I don't know if any of those guys interest me. Like Smith is pretty expensive. Like obviously Arvidsson is really expensive, and they're playing on a back-to-back. So are you thinking the Nashville fade is a good one? Are you looking at Pontus Aberg before you make that decision, or does he not really inspire you much?
Yeah, I'm not really inspired by this game very much at all. I guess if I was going to be honest, I think there's some merit to playing some Nashville. I think if you're making cash lineups, like Yossi could be a decent guy to start with. Like I really think he's a pretty good play, but
Yossi.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, it's hard to tell. When the team's on a back-to-back, and like I can't see what. I mean, obviously they're down 1-0 right now, but it's really hard to like actually know what's going on. So Alberg's cheap enough to consider, but if he's not getting any power play time, which I know he has in the past, been on the power plays, not been on power plays, but I'm gonna say overall not much of a power play guy. And I mean, it's very possible that we're saying Alberg could be a play tomorrow, and then he just gets moved and Craig Smith moves up there. And then like now I'm thinking maybe Craig Smith is a play. So it's really hard to kind of just pinpoint where I want to be. Back-to-back in Ottawa, a team that just doesn't – I don't love targeting them. I don't mind it. It's kind of like I don't feel like this game is as interesting as the others.
Yeah. Okay. So I like your points there. Let's go to Vancouver at Tampa Bay. Tampa is the biggest current favorite, as you may suspect, -250 at home against Vancouver. We've seen Kucherov really cool off. We've seen Stamkos kind of. I mean, obviously he's cooled off as well as Kucherov has. I'm trying to piece together my thoughts here, because remember that the time on ice is a bit skewed, at least for Kucherov and Stamkos, especially by the All-Star games that they played in. But even with that considered, over the last 4 games on this tough road trip, the Tampa Bay Lightning took after the All-Star break, Stamkos has played 16, 17, 17, 17 minutes. Like that kind of concerns me. Are you kind of feeling the same way? The same story holds for Kucherov as well. So, like, they're not playing those top tier minutes that you would expect. Do you think at home they might kind of like feel more rested? Cooper might let them go a little bit more, or is this kind of the new normal because Tampa has a playoff spot locked up and kind of coast to the finish, like realistically?
Oh man, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, this game, I don't know what to think about it because, like, on paper, I really think that obviously, like. You look at the entire course of the season and you're like, well, it's almost a no-brainer. Like you should definitely consider Tampa Bay. But those points that you just mentioned, on top of the fact that I just had a pretty good point there. Oh, well, I mean, Tampa Bay did just get stomped by Edmonton. I feel like I just had a bigger point to make, and I'm totally lost my train of thought.
I mean, I'll offer a little something in that they don't have much incentive to win because finishing first in the Atlantic means they face the wild card. And right now, I don't know if you'd rather face like a scorching hot Philly team or the Maple Leafs in round one, because Boston is like right there, if not past them, for number one in the Atlantic right now. So there's kind of like a dual narrative at play right there.
Yeah. Also, yeah, your expected goals model for like expected goals for tomorrow based off the last 10 days has this game is very, very low. My God, I feel like I was gonna say something and I just totally lost my train of thought on it. Something about Tampa. I'll never think of it.
Power play. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Wish I could
I'm honestly I'm just not that interested. Oh my God, I remember I was gonna say. I was gonna say that I feel like a lot of people, especially because are we in the NBA All-Star break?
No, that's a few weeks away, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why did I feel like that? Like I thought that Platinum thing was gonna like launch NBA All-Star Week. Basically, I don't care about basketball, in case you were wondering. All my friends do, and like I watch all the time, and I never like I don't really care that much about like what's happening. But what I was gonna say is like we might get a lot of like more fishes coming in the sea, and that could lead them right to taking Tampa Bay. So I thought ownership would be up, but that doesn't really hold that true. But maybe people will catch the bug from playing the Platinum competition. I don't know. It just feels like a fish spot to me. That's I guess the main point I was trying to make.
Okay. I can certainly.
It's gonna go for 8 goals now, but
yeah, I mean, I can certainly like see where your hesitation comes in. Like they haven't been all that great. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where, like, do you trust the season-long sample and even last year of Kucherov, like, literally being the best player not named Connor McDavid? Or are you kind of going to go with, like, the more recent play of, like, a Taylor Hall or, I guess, I don't really know who else in that top-tier range has the sort of production that Hall and Kucherov have had currently. But, like, yeah, I mean Tarasenko's not even a point per game on the season, so that's kind of
sad. But
yeah, so I mean, I think that is a worthwhile conversation to have. Like, you know, with all that said, Kucherov is the most expensive forward or skater on the slate, so there's still, you know, you're still paying a bit of a tax to play him, even if he's a bit cheaper than he was before. So, all in all, I think that the Stamkos Kucherov stack is absolutely fine to make. Where I think it becomes a bit of a stretch is for someone like Vlad Nemestikov, who, like, you know, I just don't trust him all that much. You know, myself, like, I'd rather go elsewhere at the mid-tier wing for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Anything on the Vancouver side or
no.
Okay. No. Colorado, St. Louis. We have 4 games left here. This is definitely a spot where I'm going to consider St. Louis, but I don't know. Like, I feel like Colorado is just doing that thing that I mentioned where they're going to try to, like, just, like, take the life out of the other team by playing the most boring hockey possible and hopefully finding a goal here or there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
that's how they feel like they're going to play.
Score effects kind of had a role in this Tuesday night, but, like, Jonathan Bernier, I think, made 30. Yeah, he made 38 saves against the Sharks. So, you know, they definitely gave up a lot of shots. And playing on the road with no McKinnon, I do think that this is kind of going to be one of the more overlooked spots, just because Tarasenko is incredible. Like, he's matched up, or he's lined up with Schwartz and Shen at the moment. It's a little bit pricey for my liking, but I do think I think that's a better stack than the Tampa one, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. But I don't know how much. I think I'm gonna end up having exposure to it. I really do. At the end of everything, I think I'm gonna end up doing it, especially if St. Louis rolls 11-7 again, which is definitely a trend that I'm loving that NHL teams are doing, because it really helps me. But they're giving their top 2 lines like all of the minutes.
All right. Too. So what I'm gonna set up a little pick'em for after we get through the games between like the top tier lines in the NHL, and we're gonna pick one. So stay tuned for that, because obviously all these top tier lines are like great plays, but it's tough to choose one of them essentially. So we'll do that at the end.
I think the important note here is that like you're getting Shen, Schwartz, Tarasenko full exposure the entire game. That like they're always on the ice together. Power play, well not penalty kill obviously, but it's definitely something that like
The
is
power kill.
why that is why it's important to keep in mind that when you're making a stack like this, it's like if that makes sense. Like in GPPs, like if you can get that kind of exposure, you should consider it, especially if it's this talented. Playing against a team that's pretty banged up at home. Colorado's played. I feel like yeah. I think I made my point there. But is there anyone else on St. Louis that you are interested in?
Not really. Like Vince Dunn is gonna tease me by being on that first power play. I may have exposure to him just because
You love him?
I can live with 17, 18 minutes out of a power play one guy if it correlates with a stack I'm doing. So obviously that Tarasenko stack would absolutely correlate with Vince Dunn on the power play and a little bit of 5-on-5 too, but definitely not someone I think is a must play by any means, given the
No.
lack of, I guess, safety we've seen recently. Colorado, did you see the JT Comforgoat score
And
an empty netter with like 1 second left yesterday's game? That was
and
pretty
did you
amazing.
see who else on his line scored a goal?
Was it Tyson Jost, aka the Bachelor Bros?
The Bachelor Bros both had goals, and Comfort had an assist.
They
So,
both had assists.
oh,
They each
I
had a
don't.
goal and an assist.
Oh, you are right. They just love each other so much, and The Bachelor. Um, so yeah, it's very cheap. It correlates very well. It gets good minutes. I don't think I'll have exposure to Colorado against
No,
St. Louis on the road though. So yeah,
no, it's wonderful in theory. Like
yeah,
7.2 for guys who are power play one together, playing pretty much top 6 minutes. I don't think you can lock in Jost to 17, 18 minutes on a night, but like he's going to get the opportunities, I think. I don't hate to play. Like, even in a tough matchup, you're not looking for all that much. Like you're literally one goal between the two and you're ecstatic.
true.
So I think it makes a lot of sense to stack them up. The only problem is Jost is no longer center eligible. So they're both wingers, which makes it a little bit more complicated, especially when like Crosby, Malkin are on the slate to like kind of force your hand at the center position up top. There's not really that value guy there, like there was before with
Mhm.
Jost
Yeah, I know, I
centering
know.
Comfer.
Yeah, it's gonna be really
So
tough to like take away two of your wing positions tomorrow with those two in
right,
a bad matchup. So
absolutely.
why don't we scoot on over to Arizona at Minnesota, which it's got to be the biggest Vegas favorite in Minnesota. I know Dubnik's most expensive goalie. I think me and you are
Yeah,
both on the bandwagon. Here's the thing. I'm just gonna say, if you really, in the deepest part of your gut, feel like Dubnik's gonna get a shutout tomorrow, like I think he's worth the price. But like I don't bet on that. Like that's such a bad bet to take that I feel like you can't afford him at that price. Like he's like very likely for the win, obviously, but like at that price, like you need a guy to get an absorbent number of saves, and if not the shutout, obviously the win. And Arizona has been shooting the buck enough to where it's like their pace numbers have been good enough to where I'm interested, but I can't imagine paying that price.
yeah, I think it's definitely something where you're just going to have to take a look at the rest of your lineup. And if you like it, I have absolutely no problem with it. The only issue is that, say you like Dubnik X amount, like the worst goalie on the slate is such a small percentage less likely than Dubnik to like not get shelled basically, which is basically all you're hoping for out of your goalie, like to not get shelled. And then everything else from there is just kind of gravy. Um, if it's worth the $1,300 in your lineup to upgrade a spot, I think you should always sacrifice the goalie personally.
Yeah, no, I totally
But
agree
that's
because at 8,500, like he has to be the best goalie on the night by like a decent amount to make it
I
worth
mean
it. Like
for yeah,
like
well that
well, it depends. I mean, obviously, but like one bad bounce and like two bad bounces, really, and like he is not gonna get you what you need, in my opinion.
right.
Like Minnesota can shut him down enough to. I don't think he'll see more than 30 to 35 shots, and like he needs to shut out at that point. Like 30, let's say 28 saves, 2 goals allowed in the win. Like it's great, but it's not good enough. Because like another goal is gonna be right there getting the better numbers or right at the same. No, I don't know.
All
I
right,
get
enough
I never
goalie
say
talk.
that much. I know. He does
Players.
way too much goalie talk. Back to players. So I feel like there's a good amount of value on the Minnesota side of things.
Yeah, I mean
Do you want to start
they
there?
just lit up the Blues like a Christmas tree on Tuesday.
They beat him down.
Certainly did not see that one coming. Um, you pretty much like every single player on the Minnesota Wild had a huge game on Tuesday. I don't necessarily think that will like continue. Um, However, I think the most noteworthy spots are on the power play, obviously, and they scored so often on the power play, it was tough to get a feel of what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
But
right.
it essentially looked like Parise, Stahl, Niederreiter were a pair, or a trio, and then Zucker, Granlund, Koivu were a pair, or
Mhm.
just a trio on the power play, which correlates with the 5-on-5 lines as well. Parise being on a different 5-on-5 line from Stahl and Niederreiter, but the Granlund, Koivu, Zucker line was all together. I really think that's all you need to know. Like, if
Yeah.
you're going to stack some of these guys, I would say do it across power play units, obviously. And then Suter and Spurgeon are just playing all the minutes for this team. And they're a little bit pricey, but I think they're well worth consideration given the matchup and, if you're playing a bunch of Minnesota guys, how directly correlated they are.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Parise is a really good value and like is a decent enough one-off. Like I would not stack him with his line mates, but you could get exposure to him and Nino. Like Stahl is really expensive. I wouldn't say it's like out of the question expensive, but it's really not what I'm looking to get in my lineup tomorrow. I doubt I end up having Eric Stahl at 6,900. Nice. But I think you could go with just like Parise and Suter or Spurgeon. I think Suter might actually, I know this might sound weird, but I'm kind of in toy with the new theory that if a guy has such consistent shot block numbers and I mean enough with his shots on goal, but I think a guy like Suter has a bigger spot for an explosion night because if he scores a goal, like he's still probably gonna block 4 or 5 shots and probably have like 2 or 3 on net. Like I think he has a really pretty good GPP upside comparatively to what people think. Like I know that getting a goal out of a defenseman is very, it's so hard to predict. And I think in GPP, I'm very interested in Suter tomorrow for some reason. Like I'm someone's really leaning me
Hey,
towards.
I totally dig it. Like Suter is
Like,
a really good DFS option given his power play usage. Minnesota is probably one of the last few teams in the league that run their power play through the defenseman. Like
yeah,
the
he
two
moves the puck
defensemen.
so well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's and like one he has such a great shot. Like one setup to him, like he probably sets it up himself by moving the puck and then getting into a good position. Like he could really smash. I think him and Parise. And like you know what the best part about playing those two together is? It's
uh,
well below the average like player that you need in the line. Like it's
yeah, for
only
sure.
10,400 for that those two in a stack. And like there's huge upside. I think Parise on like as far as over the last few day the 10-day sample size for Parise, he has the most shot attempts out of any player on the Wild. So that point finally got out of my mouth.
Nice. All right. So, with all that said, Minnesota, very good play. Much cheaper than the similarly favorited, if that's a phrase, Tampa Bay Lightning. So keep that in mind. On the Arizona side, anything again? Ekman Larson's kind of lost his first power play role. That kind of throws a guy like Alex Goligoski into consideration, given that he's been playing well over 20 minutes, is 3.4 and is averaging 4 blocks plus shots over the last 10 games with that power play one role. Um, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think if you're looking to punt defense, going to a team that you basically think is going to get shelled offensively and taking the defenseman who plays a ton of minutes from them uh, isn't the dumbest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Like, if he has a little bit of offensive upside, all the better.
Yeah. I don't know. It's there. I doubt I have it though. Is the reason why I'm not going to get too strong on it. Like I cannot imagine I play Alex Goligoski, and I don't think it's a terrible play. I just in a GPP format, I don't know.
All right, yeah, no, I mean, I
I
think
just
he
don't think I
opens up
just
a
don't
little
think
bit of
he's
value.
like as nearly as talented as a guy like Suter, who like I feel like they try to play a similar style. Maybe I don't know how to describe it. I have no real descriptions here of why I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like,
I mean, I don't expect you to say like Alex Goligoski, lock him in. He's just a guy who's an
he
option.
was on the
So
ice for 4 goals against last game. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't trust it. Like, I know he tries to block shots, but he missed 4 of them.
I mean, yeah,
Like, I just don't think he's like very good at all. Like, they should just be giving him less minutes. They really should be trying to get Chutrin out there more, who he kind of way backed out in price. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he's up to. He stopped being awesome.
yeah.
What about another guy way down in price in Clayton Keller? Any interest?
Um, a little bit
Remember when he was
actually.
like a lock to win Rookie of the Year? For like,
Yeah, I know. Now he's not even in the discussion anymore, which I
no,
mean is just a
it's
factor of how
so.
bad Arizona is. But
I know.
uh,
Save him.
no, it just don't.
Don't play Arizona.
Yeah, just
Okay.
don't lock up any of your roster spots on a team that like you're looking for points out of a forward basically. Don't lock up roster spots out of like a team that's not likely to score goals. Like that's really
Yes.
all right. Two more games. Dallas at Chicago. Patty Kane really saved my bacon with his last second goal to. Actually, I didn't even play him, but I believe he was my guaranteed goal, which
Yeah,
is
he
why I say that.
was.
He
He's
scored
the
with like
worst.
4 seconds left, I think, which was kind of crazy. He's 6,900 in a matchup at home against the Dallas Stars. You would normally think that's like a pretty good matchup. But again, I'll repeat, like this Dallas Stars team is not the same team. And so for that instance, I'm just gonna look the other way. Like he's super cheap. He's pretty good at hockey, and he has cheap line mates you can stack him with, namely the power play guys Seabrook and Hinostroza. But it's kind of one of those things where I'm just looking at the matchup and not really feeling it. So,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on that?
On this game in general, or just Patty
Yeah,
Kane?
like on the Chicago side mainly, and then we'll
Um,
jump to Dallas.
Boy, I mean, honestly, the thing about the Chicago side is like I've never seen their players this cheap, and like I really don't think that Chicago is the worst play in the world tomorrow, by any stretch. Like playing some of their guys, but Dallas has been so good as of late. But I mean, first off, Brandon Saad on the fourth line and down below 4K. I mean, at the beginning of the year, he was one of the hottest players to start, and it's really sad to see. I don't know what the Chicago team is, honestly. Like they are very confusing to me as of
Bad.
late. They just might just be bad. Like that could be it, but their pace numbers have been pretty decent, right?
Hmm.
Like, am I losing
Yeah,
it?
they definitely have like pace in general. They've been getting, they've been giving up more than they've been like getting themselves, but
Yeah.
they're definitely not a bad DFS look by any means.
Like I
And
absolutely don't hate this game. I don't think that it's like I think there's definitely some exposure worth trying to grab here. I just don't know really where it is. I don't know. Like I really have no one pinpointed as like this is where I want to get exposure through. I mean, I like, man,
yeah,
I don't know. I
I
like
think
Kane okay.
Osterley and Seabrook are kind of my two favorite guys from the Chicago side. Like if I'm gonna play someone, I'm gonna play defenseman, I feel like. And Osterley and Seabrook are both right around the 4K mark and playing power play roles. Osterley's had like really good floor numbers, like all season, really, given the role that he's been in. So now his role's jumped up considerably. He's getting power play time, and his floor numbers have gone through the roof as a result. So that's
You
a
know,
name. Like,
you know,
4,100 for
oh,
him
sorry.
is tough, but go ahead.
You know how many goals Duncan Keith has?
Is it still zero?
Yeah.
Insane. So
I
crazy.
knew that, but I just I just like seeing it again made me smile.
124 shots on goal.
Oh my god. Yo, Riley Sheehan called. Oh boy. Wow, that's bad. Oh god. I think I just gotta sign off. That's so sad. I know. All right. Honestly, I agree with the Chicago side. I don't hate the idea of going with a little bit of Chicago stackish. I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of the Taves line mates of DeBrincat and Declare, right?
Yeah, they're just not like if I'm gonna
Really
if I'm
risky.
gonna play someone who's not playing a ton of 5-on-5 minutes with a power play role, I'm just simply gonna play Vinny Hinostroza
Cool.
because his shot rate has been incredible this season. Like, yeah,
No
DeBrinket's like
problem with that.
a pretty good player, but he's also like mid-tier expensive, and he's not playing the minutes. So if I'm gonna go for as I said, a Chicago guy not playing a ton of minutes with a good power play role, Hinostroza has just been like lighting it up in terms of the shot rate per 60. So it's not been overly successful DFS wise if you've rostered him every night like I have. But you've had your games here and there where it's been over the past couple weeks where it's been a really strong play. And I don't hate, the Hinostroza Seabrook power play correlation. But all right, Dallas
Dallas is
has a
yeah.
top line that is obviously one of the best in the business. Alex Radulov has been completely murdering the game as of right now. His price has gone all the way up from like the mid fives to the 7,000 mark in I think less than a month. Really, it's been a meteoric rise for him. Um, he has 12 points in his last 10 games now, playing with Ben and Sagan. What are your thoughts on the top line in Dallas? I mean, are they
Yeah, I mean,
stackable?
oh my God, are they stackable? Obviously, they are stackable. It's definitely going to break the bank pretty quick. I mean, I did mention those Minnesota guys. I think if you go with the top stack and those two Minnesota guys, like you're gonna have to find some savings, but you can make it work. I would say they're again like they definitely meet the criteria to be in one of my favorite stacks of the night, but that's every time they play because like they are, one of those first power play, first line stacks that get a majority of the minutes. I think that you could very easily just get exposure with Sagan and Klingberg instead of trying to really get it all together. Like Sagan has been like one of the best shot producers as he always is. He's on a 3-goal streak. All these things, could lead you to play him. Klingberg also, like he's been one of the best defensemen of the year. He definitely would make the cut. He's worth considering. I think those two would be fine. Or going with Radulov. I'm not too sure if I'd pay for Jamie Benn, but like he's just one of those guys where it's like game to game a different player. It almost feels like. Whereas like
Mhm.
some games it's like I'm shooting the puck, and then some games he comes in, he goes, "My stick doesn't work right tonight. I'm just gonna pass." So I don't know what to do with him. But I do want exposure to this game. I think I'd get it through Sagan, just alone or with Klingberg. Also, I think that Montreal probably misses Radulov quite a bit right now.
Yeah, I would say. And so does every single team who could have signed Radulov in free agency because he is incredible.
He never would have gone to Buffalo.
No, he would never have. But anyways, Vegas. Well, moving on. If you're ready, I agree with what you said. Sagan is incredible. Vegas at San Jose as the true late night hammer. Like 8:30 is the Dallas Chicago game. All the way till 10:30, they're gonna make you sweat it out for this Vegas at San Jose game. Putting aside Brent Burns, I would
No
say.
thanks.
Well, I mean, like putting him aside, is there like a number one player you're going to look at? I know Colin
Well,
Miller's price has come down a decent amount.
I like doing the thing when you say that where I could like switch the first letter of the first name with the first letter of the last name, but it's still Brent Burns. So I can't do that here. Did you mention
Burnt
Brent Burns?
Benz?
Did you mention? I honestly, I'm just gonna have Brent Burns in my lineup. Like that's why I'm really gonna struggle to get one of those top stacks and get the whole thing together because like
Yeah.
I want Brent Burns, and I'm paying for it. So you can't stop me. It's my money. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't think I'll really have anyone else. I do like Timo Meyer a lot. His price has come down. Like Timo Meyer's really, really good at hockey. Like he's
Did you see the play he made to save a goal yesterday in the
I saw you
Colorado
tweet
game?
about it.
Oh
I'm
my
pretty sure I
god,
favored the
it
tweet. I don't
was
remember seeing the play.
disgusting. Um,
Yeah, he's good at hockey though.
yeah, the puck like landed on Jones's back, and then the Colorado guy basically like bodied Jones into the net. Timo Meyer, the puck falls off of Jones. Timo Meyer's like standing with his back to the far end of the ice, so he's looking straight into the net. He literally reaches out, takes the puck off the goal line, swipes it between his legs, like an incredible hand-eye coordination thing that I literally did not believe when I saw it. I was like, wait, did he just do that? Like saved a clear goal.
Yeah, he's
Um,
pretty good at the
so
old hockey game.
yeah, I mean 3.9 for basically say borderline top 6 minutes with a really strong shot rate, you can certainly do it. I would say the only way that I would do it is if I was stacking him with the Joe Pavelski, just because that's where Mayer plays with Pavelski at 5-on-5. So I think that's where I would get my main correlation. And then Brent Burns, because Brent Burns is Brent Burns and should be automatically installed in your daily fantasy lineups until DraftKings decides to make him more expensive than the top wingers on the slate, because there's no reason to play a top winger without Brent Burns.
Yeah, he's just a better play than all of the wingers. I totally agree. It's a lock. I think it has to be. I think we're finally like the Pittsburgh Vegas game. I did watch the entirety of it. And what I would say is that like Vegas is fine, but they when they get down, they really try to push the pace and they do open it up and try to make things happen. So I'm interested in Burns all day. Like I think this is a smash spot for him. They're going to give him huge minutes. They have to keep winning games. They're really fighting for a playoff spot, and like Burns is the best guy for this game in a great spot. So I'm very interested in that. On the Vegas side, I mean, I really like Tuck. I think I always am kind of into that. Like he's getting pretty good minutes. Well, actually, not so much last game, but oh man.
Actually, Tuck's pretty hit or miss, to be honest.
He's still hit or miss. I'm not that interested in Vegas in general.
Yeah, I would prefer Timo Meier to him, like straight up.
Good point.
Yeah, the defensemen are again interesting to me, but I think choosing between basically Theodore, Miller, and maybe Schmidt if Hunt doesn't play, because Schmidt picks up that power play work. And Schmidt probably has like the safest floor of these guys, but when Brad Hunt plays, he loses his power play role to Hunt. So
yeah, Vegas took I think 4 delayed game penalties.
Yeah, I saw that. That was incredible.
They really didn't quite get the memo on that. Like Theodore led them in 5-on-5 ice time for any defenseman. No, Schmidt did by a little bit. He was second. So I noticed Theodore a lot. Theodore played great defensively. Didn't really push the envelope offensively like we always hope he does. But I kind of feel like I'm just gonna have Burns from this game. Hopefully, I'm in contention late, and Burns can just drive home a win for me.
All right. So with all the games covered, I think that took a little bit longer than we expected. But let's do. I'm gonna basically list out how many. Let's see, top tier stacks. What would you say the top tier stacks are here? We've got the Tampa one. We've got the St. Louis one.
Yes.
We've got the Dallas one. Any others that you think should be in the mix? Philly, perhaps.
Like you could put them in, but
it's kind of mid tier-ish. Yeah. The Islanders, maybe.
Yeah.
But, all right.
Sure.
Let's just go with the main. Let's just go with the main 3: Tampa, St. Louis, and Dallas. Which top line are you going with here? If you had to pick one to stack at least 2 of the 3.
I'd go St. Louis.
St. Louis?
Yeah. I'd go Schwartzenko. I'd go like Schwartzenko, Sagan, like get exposure to both of them, and Burns, and then just like punt.
Yeah,
that's gonna work probably.
I think I would go Dallas personally. Just obviously Sagan, and then like even Jamie Benn. Like the sim loves Jamie Benn. It may have something to do with his relatively strong numbers for a winger that just kind of raises his floor just by a tad every night. And obviously Ben is right around the front of the net on that power play and has massive upside. So I think I would side with Dallas here if I had to pick between the 3. So all right, let's do one other stack and like one other cheaper stack, and then 2 guaranteed goals, not from that cheaper stack.
Okay, so one other stack you have. Well, I'll just do mine. Parise, Suter, and I would consider throwing Nino in there too for that full power play.
Okay.
Kind of.
And I will go with Taylor Hall, Palmieri, and Pavel Zacha. I just think Palmieri's like a really, really great play. I kind of wanted to save him for my guaranteed goal, but I figured I can make it work otherwise. So, all right, guaranteed goals. Do you have anyone in mind for this at the moment?
I'm definitely gonna take Parise.
Nice.
At 5K, like I would almost say he's the best value on the night. Almost like he's not a value player, like he's a mid-tier player for sure, but like I think that he's gonna get way overlooked because he hasn't been putting up points. He only has 4 points in 14 games since coming back, but like he's getting great minutes, great power play time, and he's shooting the puck a ton. Like it's gonna turn around for this guy. He's a very skilled player. I mean, obviously, if any big injury, it normally takes a little bit of time to come back. So I hope that was enough stalling to get you ready for your take.
Yeah. So I will go with. All right. You only took one, right?
Yeah, I took Parise. I mean, I could take another.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. I'll go with Tarasenko. Why not? I
Okay,
just
that's fine.
like he's great. Leaves me a nice little range for my second pick.
Oh, you know what? I didn't have utility, and I was like, where are all the players? Okay, I'll go with. Wow, I really no, I can't. I don't have enough for that. How about? Boy, this is tough. It's like. Do you have another guy in mind or?
Yeah, I'll go with Sam Reinhart. Eichel's gonna find Samson backdoor. Goalie's gonna buy the shot totally, and Reinhardt's just gonna jam in for an open net goal basically.
All right.
So
I'm gonna
that's
I'm
what's
gonna
happening.
go I'm gonna go back to the Voracek well. Like I
Okay.
really think that they're gonna get the key. He's not immune to shooting the puck. Like he does shoot a little bit here or there. Like some games he shoots the puck more often, like more than others. And I think in this game, if they're hurting, he'll be shooting. Like he's a really skilled player. So I'll go Voracek and Parise.
All right. Perfect. So with that said, that will do it for this show. Be sure anything you want to say before we close out.
St. Bonaventure beat St. Louis. They are gonna make the tournament. So just go Bonnies, and that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stall for 3 minutes, St. John's is beating Villanova on the road by 4 points with a minute to go. But we'll know how that played out by morning time. So, um, yeah, I wanted to shout out Will again for last show. That was incredible. I didn't think I had low expectations or anything, but I was just kind of like, we'll talk and kind of do whatever. But he like came prepared. He was the man. My boy from St. John's. Hopefully, we can go crazy tonight after taking down number one Nova. Um, and yeah, other than that, be sure to follow us on Twitter. Check out the morningskatepod.com website. If you've not to, if you've yet to, there's a projections on there that they're just another source of information. They're really spot on. They're just a ton of fun to look at and to play with, and really good way to start your process. So, with all that said, thank you for listening. From Doug, from DJ, and from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see.